Hey y'all, this is Sam with the Roots of Change newsletter, and today we are here with your September digital and tech news roundup. So if you have been completely bombarded by the political news and the news, we are here to give you all of the updates on digital and tech news and how that's going to impact your work as a social change communicator or activist or organizer or however you are creating change in this world. So let's get started. I have a few updates just in general around digital communications. Then we have two major updates that will impact advertisers, and then a rapid fire for all of the social media news out there. First up, Google now has exclusive Reddit access. So this happened a few months ago, but it has now evolved and we've really kind of seen what this means. But Google and Reddit reached a major deal earlier this year that allowed Google to use all of Reddit's social media data to inform their AI search model. So if you have searched for pizza ingredients and your recommendation included glue, that is why, because they are using some results for Reddit, which is sometimes you find some really great answers on Reddit, and sometimes you find not accurate things. So that is really interesting to see how that's evolved on that end. But then on the other end, this is also limiting Reddit access across other search engines. So Google is now the exclusive owner of Reddit access. So if you search for anything on any other search engine, you're not going to be able to access Reddit. I think this is really crucial because this is just another example of how the free and fair and open internet is no longer, and how a lot of these big tech companies have just been chipping away at the open internet, and making it harder for us to access readily information that should be readily available. So something to keep in mind and watch as the election looms, but also post-election, and hopefully Lena Khan can continue her work at the FTC. Speaking of, the next piece is around AI. So scammers have breached Substack and cloned a number of writers, including popular writer Tim Denning. So essentially, scammers are targeting people on Substack notes, including Tim Denning, who is a prominent figure on Substack. He writes about writing, and his entire publication was cloned. So they are republishing their content and then using that to profit. This is just another example of how a lot of these big tech platforms are really vulnerable to security and privacy concerns. I personally moved my newsletter and media over to Ghost, an independent publishing platform, at the beginning of the year because I saw some concerning things around Substack, particularly their platforming of Nazis, but also in how they are handling data privacy and just their general approach to tech. It does not align with my values, and so that's why I switched over. But it is something to consider, because it is really easy for our content to be duplicated, replicated, profited off of without our knowledge, without our consent. And so something really to keep in mind with your work, and try to either like paywall or put information behind a membership. There are various ways to try to combat some of this, but at this point, we do need larger government regulation to get involved. And that leads to the third story, which is about AI scraping. So NVIDIA, which is one of the largest AI companies and has seen record stock prices this year, a new report from 404 Media has now revealed that NVIDIA downloads 80 years worth of video per day to build their AI models. So that's just insane to think about. There's going to reach a point where there is not 80 years worth of data for them to continue to scrape. But it's really important to understand where they are scraping this data. They are finding these videos and stealing the video content from YouTube, MovieNet, GitHub, even Netflix. All of these are mass data scraping. They are violating the terms of services of most of these platforms, and in some instances, they are illegal. Um, this is something to really pay attention to. AI and its misuse is really being swept under the rug because of the AI hype. But at the end of the day, so much of AI is being trained off of stolen content, and it's trained off of our stolen content. So if you've ever published a video on YouTube, if you've ever written a blog post, that information and content could be stolen by one of the largest companies on the stock market. So something to consider again, in terms of our regulation and in terms of, do we own our own content, and should these companies be able to scrape our data as easily as they are right now? All right, moving into the advertising news, we have two big updates that are really going to impact your advertising campaigns if you are on Meta or Google. So the first up, Meta is restricting their data in business tools. So essentially what they are doing is they are restricting some of the data parameters in terms of how you can advertise. And specifically, they are restricting URLs with highly targeted UTMs or custom parameters. So essentially what that means is, if you've ever seen a URL that's like .com / da 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 da, question mark, medium equals Google, source equals campaign, da 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 da, and it's a really long URL. Those are UTMs or custom parameters. And what they do is that if a person clicks on that link and lands on their website, then they can see and track back like what that person did, and make sure that the original source gets credit for that. So what this will mean is that a lot of third-party analytics are not going to be able to capture a lot of the meta analytics. So if someone were to click on an Instagram ad and then make a donation, without those UTM parameters, you might not be able to see that that donation came from your Meta advertising campaign. So that's one piece that is making it more challenging. The other piece that it is limiting your retargeting, and it's also limiting custom audiences. So if you're running a Meta advertising campaign, go into the platform, triple check what is live. Some of your campaigns might have been paused, and then remove those UTM parameters and try your best to align with their new rules. I will say that I think that this is disappointing news. I think that it hurts smaller advertisers more because they don't have the money to spend on data and research. And I think it's a little bit of window dressing to make it look like Meta is doing something to protect data, when in reality, this is more of a useful way that data can be collected, that's really not harming any individual. So something to keep in mind. A lot of times they'll kind of throw these bones out to us to be like, look, we're doing stuff, when in reality, it's actually harmful for smaller organizations. And then speaking of retiring some technology, Google Ads is sunsetting their enhanced CPC. So Google Ads or Google Grants, if you have one campaign, you might be running the enhanced cost per click, which is essentially an automated bidding strategy. It's a way to kind of get into more of the way that Google and its algorithm can customize so that it does allow you to reach your goals more quickly. So what this means is that you're no longer going to have like an enhanced cost per click to drive higher clicks. But there are still going to be a lot of the same bidding strategies still available. So what I would recommend is, if you do have eCPC, test out some other automated bidding strategies and see what works. You have max conversions. You can do maximize conversion value, which would be more aligned with a fundraising strategy. And while a lot of these bidding strategies are designed for larger companies and advertisers to sell products, we can use these strategies for our own support. So if you have a goal of getting more website traffic, maybe your conversion is just getting to your homepage instead of a donation. So some things to consider, like there are ways to get really creative with bidding strategies that allow you to be a little bit more flexible. All right, and then last up, we have our rapid fire social media news. So first up, LinkedIn adds verification for company pages. So very similar to personal pages. You can now verify and register your organization, and that just helps build more brand trust. Next up, YouTube tests community spaces. So YouTube is always competing with Meta and TikTok and vice versa. So they are introducing community spaces to allow creators and viewers on YouTube to share posts and interact, just building a little bit more of that two-way communication that other apps have started introducing. Instagram. So Instagram's chief, Adam Mosseri, is really doubling down on sends, very focused on DMs and the messaging centers on Instagram. So if you are looking to boost your Instagram posts, definitely consider how you are incentivizing people to send those posts via DM to their friends or interacting via messaging, because that will help boost your performance theoretically. And then this next one is again from 404 Media. This is Facebook's AI slop, where Facebook's AI slop comes from. I really encourage you to just read this article. It digs into kind of what Facebook is right now. There is a lot of AI crap that is infiltrated Facebook, and it does impact the overall experience. So it's something to consider as a poster or an advertiser. Like, do you want to be next to a lot of AI junk? Question. And maybe you do. Maybe your audience is there and they are interacting, and that's great. You should definitely keep doing that, but something to consider. Next up, TikTok. You can now download TikTok clips without their watermark. So it's just when you're now given two options when you're saving, save with watermark or save without. So that's really great to help boost your TikTok post across other channels. Instagram adds broadcast channel replies. So broadcast channels are now for creators and organizations to allow them to send out information to their followers. And typically that's kind of a one-way communication. So now they are adding replies in so that it is a little bit more of an interactive community, very similar to like a Patreon. They're really trying to compete with Patreon here. And then last up, you have on Instagram, you can now add 20 slides to an Instagram carousel post. So I'm not sure if anyone needed 20 slides, but you now have that option if you would like to add more images per post. And that is it for our September communications and tech news roundup. I hope that you found this information helpful for you and your work, and we will be back again next month to cover some more digital tech and news.